On the road to Macstock with Marty and Will Jencius. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free magazine on Flipboard and on the web. Want to cut through all the noise and find out what you can do with your Apple gear? MacVoices Magazine focuses on just that, aggregating the best how-to articles and information. Get it by searching for MacVoices in the Flipboard app or visiting macvoices.com/magazine. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this time on the road to Macstock, we have a special treat because this is something that hasn't been done at Macstock before, and I'm excited to let you know about it so that you can prepare yourselves, because you really need to prepare yourself for it. Meanwhile, prepare yourself for a Macstock conference and Expo. We're going to have a great time in Crystal Lake in July. We want you there. We'll talk more about that in a little while. Right now, though, I want to introduce a face you're very familiar with, Marty Jencius. Marty, it's great to have you back here on the road to Macstock.
This is going to be fun for me, and because my son gets to come with me and do some stuff together. So I'm happy that you had us on here to talk about this.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Also here is, guess what? Will Jencius, Marty's son, who's going to be presenting at Macstock. Will, it's great to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you as well. Thanks for having us.
No, this is fantastic. And I said you're breaking new ground because unless I missed something somewhere, and I'm 99.9% sure I haven't, you guys will be the first father-son presentation ever done at Macstock. I think that is just so cool. I love the idea.
You missed something, Chuck. You're also going to have two PhDs up on stage at the same time. So that should really scare you.
Whoa, I did not know that. Yeah,
it's a paradox. And you can take that any way you want to.
So I want to talk about your session, but I also want to talk about sort of the genesis of your session. Because, Marty, you kind of snuck your way into podcasting in a big way, and then you and Will decided to do something together. And I love that idea of a father and son being able to collaborate on something like this. Why don't we start there and let you tell us about that podcast?
Well, Will is the genesis of this podcast, actually, because he was on a trip somewhere, and he texted me and said, "Dad, I forgot this piece of equipment." And then the discussion was, how do you remember to take stuff with you? And I'll let him tell his side of the story, but I'll stick with mine. And it led to him saying, "Hey, Dad, you should do a podcast on travel and tech." And of course, I took it to the Brain Trust on MacVoices and In Touch with iOS. And you guys were like, "You've got enough podcasts." And that just encourages me. And I couldn't get the idea out of my head. So I went back to Will and I said, "I'll do it, but we need to do this together."
Yeah,
so
like
Will,
so,
what's
like
your
any
take
good father and son duo, he shoves the responsibility off onto someone else. So no, so you touched on it pretty well. So I was traveling. I was somewhere I think in South Carolina at the time, and like anyone traveling for work, you spend a lot of the day working at whatever site you're working at, and then you go back to your hotel room. You might grab something to eat, and then you start playing with every piece of technology you didn't get to play with while you were working. So I was looking at charging my phone, doing something with my laptop, trying to find a good VPN and internet connection. And I was just getting frustrated. And I was like, I forgot these adapters. I've got a million of these in my drawer at home at my little, command center that I have at home. And I was texting him. I was like, "Hey, do you know if they make an adapter for this or this?" And then it kind of evolved into what he brought up. You know, how do you remember to bring everything that because I know he travels a lot. He's traveled more than I have over the millennia. And I asked him, how do you remember to travel, what to pack for your travels? So from there it turned into a technology discussion, and there's definitely some cool pieces of technology we've found over the last 6 months as I found myself traveling more, and we've kind of discussed those and brought them to light over the podcast. So.
And then we've also had some fun with it too. Like another thing somebody told me not to do was don't record a show in a car. And with both of us traveling so much at that time, the only time we could record a show for a couple of weeks was in the car on the way of taking each other to the airport or picking each other up at the airport. So we've had some fun with the show too, and things have worked out well. From that standpoint, he's now in Vegas working on a project. He's been there for 6 weeks
5
now?
weeks, five going into my 6th week, and I'll be here for another week and a half or so. So I've been away from all of my at-home technology, that I'm used to, and kind of stuck in a bubble for about 6 weeks, and it's created some unique situations that we've discussed a little bit on our podcast.
Yeah.
Well, so now I'll tell my part of the story, because when Marty brought it in and started talking about doing something like this with his son, for some reason, and he didn't say anything specific, okay, but for some reason I came away with the concept that this is like a 13-year-old kid or whatever. And it's like, oh, isn't this cute? Okay. And then when he told me how old you were, and, now I find out you're a PhD, but I think no matter what age, I think it's a great thing for a father and son to be doing. And so and I love the fact that it was born out of an actual need, as opposed to just, what are we going to do? What can we do a podcast about together? And Marty, the idea of you guys recording it in a car, I think that just for me harks back to the early days of podcasting, when everything was kind of shoot from the hip, do whatever you want, do whatever suits, be authentic. I mean, that is pretty darn authentic. And I think that speaks to, and the quality of what both of you do really speaks to the whole thing. That, this is not just of course, it's a little hobby podcast in a way, but you also deliver some really, really important, great information.
Yeah, we try to do some good research on it. We share our show notes before the show, and we kind of come up with a general topic we're going to talk about. And then will take it and add things in that I hadn't even thought about. In terms of hardware or software that he's used or has heard about that he wants to. So it becomes a pretty content-rich show, which I think is helpful for the listeners of it or the viewers of it. And all of that information in the show notes is provided to the viewers on the notes within the podcast or notes within the video cast. So I think what's been great is I have someone else to do show notes with, and Will takes no, seriously. I mean, if you have ever you've done show notes, Chuck, I'm sure, and we've been in podcasts together, but trying to really organize show notes takes a good period of time for each episode, and Will has been great in contributing stuff with that.
Yeah, and one thing that really, really adds to it, I think, is it's two completely different generations of experience with technology. Where I grew up in the era where cell phones were just getting started. I mean, we had a hardline phone for a brief period of time, and before that, there's 30, 40 years of my dad's experience with technology as he grew up with it. And so, and in addition to that, he's more plugged into the Apple community than I am. And so he is very, into that area where I'm looking at it outside saying, oh, well, I've heard of other areas outside of Apple or the Apple community with pieces of technology. And I try to throw those in to give a fun comparison or fun options with what we talk about.
Well, I was going to ask you if, based on your comments here, I don't think I need to, but I will anyway. Do you consider yourself a self-described geek like the rest of us? Where, because you say you have a command center at home, so I kind of feel like you're part of us.
So like any good son of my father, I like to inherit whatever piece of technology he gets. And over the 30 years that I've been his son, I've been able to amass a lot of hand-me-down pieces of technology. But I have a PhD in synthetic organic chemistry. I don't think that disqualifies me as a geek. I think that kind of moves me towards the head of the line in some instances. So I would consider myself somewhat of a geek. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets this. He gets the secondary cameras. It's like, oh, let me give you the Osbot, and oh yeah, I've got this microphone. Here, let's get you a good microphone. And so it's it. He taps into my need to buy new technology and not feel like I can't give it to someone else to use. So.
Tap is too soft of a word. I would say instigate or probably kind of nudge him in the direction of new technology that he needs to buy.
That's right.
But
That's right.
yeah.
He has asks like, I'm going, do you know of any good way that I could do this, Dad? And then it's like, well, there's this piece of well, that's really good, Dad. And then I'm like shaking like a junkie. And then the next thing you know, it's being shipped to his house. The new piece of technology.
Well, I'm so glad to know this because now, Will, every time Apple brings something else or we hear of some really cool new piece of tech, we're going to really push him to buy it so you get the next hand-me-down faster. That will work out well. That'll work out well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's already informed me he thinks he's going to need a new laptop.
I'll inform you again. I might be purchasing a new laptop before Macstock, so we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get there.
Feel free to ask for recommendations. We like to order things for Marty that have commas in them, lots of commas. So I want to get to the presentation that you're going to give, but I also, before we do, Will, I want to ask you, what was your reaction when I assume it was your dad that approached you about doing the presentation at Macstock? Was it like, oh, okay, or you'd love to come and meet some of the people and do this?
So initially, whenever he asked me to plan something, I first immediately go to my calendar and say, oh, do I have time for this? And I was at a period of time where I came to do the current work trip that I'm on, and it was pitched to me to be anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks. And so it was kind of like, I'm not sure if I have time. But we also chatted about it during our podcast, and I was like, absolutely, I want to do a podcast if I can go there with you and make this really a fun, a fun trip. And so my initial thoughts were, it was kind of guessing. It was, I don't know if I can do this. It sounds fun, but wait a minute, what do you guys really do there? Is there a candle lighting ceremony? Is there some, weird mantra that I have to say? Like what is going on here at this Macstock? And so we discussed it more, and it kind of sounded more and more fun. And then as the weeks went on, we finally just said, okay, I think I can fit this in my schedule. Let's pull the trigger and really give this a fair shot. So, now that we have it set and everything's good to go, it's more excitement now. So.
Good. Well, that's good.
Yeah. As a father, it's like, I would love you to do this. I hope you'll do this. In fact, I'm going to really want you to do this. And, you'll be back. You're going to be gone for a while, but you'll be back in time for it. And, and then he tells me, yeah, I can do it. But I've got this offer to go to Northwest Wisconsin out in a cabin. So when I drive in from Ohio, I'm going to be swinging by O'Hare Airport to pick him up, to take him out to Macstock. So we've had to make this convergence of being able to connect, and he'll be out there with me, and I will enjoy it. A great time. I know he will too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you mentioned the sacrificing the virgin to him? No, never mind. Better not talk about that.
But I have mentioned Portello's. So, and I've sent him menus. So, that just entices my son. When we traveled together to Turkey, we went to a place that in Turkish was referred to as the meat house. And that was what our dinners were, basically.
I like it.
So he's going to like Portillo's.
I like it. So let's get to the presentation.
Usually grabs me a good meal. I'm in.
And is that an easy bribe, Will?
Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely an easy bribe.
Yeah. So let's get the presentation because we've sort of hinted at it, but what exactly are you two going to be covering at Macstock?
Well, I'm still. I'm. This is how I conceptualize it. I pitched the idea of doing a presentation based on travel tech to Mike Potter, and I had just started Gear Up and Go with Will, and we thought that we would do something akin to Gear Up and Go, and Mike really liked the idea of talking about travel tech. He's had some experience on his podcast with guests that talk about travel tech. And so he's like, yeah, let's do that. And I think the added enjoyment is I get to do it with my son. He and I have, I think, humorous banter that he got from genetically from me, I think. Mom is much more serious in a lot of ways. But so we're going to have fun with it. I think we're going to put together some ideas of what we think are good tech, but it's not very entertaining at travel tech. It's not very entertaining for the two of us to stand up there for 45 minutes and just say, these are what we think are the bests or what we think are really cool. You should find out about it. I'm looking at offloading a lot of that onto a website so attendees can go there and look at some of what our choices are and ideas and maybe talk about it. But my vision right now is to kind of turn it into a come on down. If you have a favorite travel tech that you use that you'd like to share with everybody else, send us the URL and we'll bring you up for 5 minutes and you can talk about it and you'll get a prize. We're going to bring some bribes to get people to do it too. So it's going to be more audience engagement, and we'll not only have this stuff available for people to look at that we've put together, but we'll also kind of do a sort of a team MC as people come up and talk about the technology and show the technology that they like to use for travel.
So you are going to do the first father-son session at Macstock ever. You're going to involve the audience and even do some pre-work. You guys got to get lives, man. This is just crazy.
Well, the thing that we both bring, Chuck, and when I get nervous about talking in front of Macstock, one of the things that I bring that I have to remind myself, and I think my son brings it too, we're teachers by trade. So we know how to stand up and kind of get people in the room involved around ideas, or at least be entertaining enough that they'll pay attention to what we're talking about. So whenever I get nervous, I keep reminding myself that I've done this hundreds of times in front of a less excited audience of students, and
a very less
that I'll be okay.
Audience of students. Yeah. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, I could see the needle from here going in, Will. That was very good. That was good. So, Will, seriously though, on that score, you're a teacher as well, or have you've had done teaching experience?
Yeah, so it was what year is it? Oh gosh, it's 2025. So in the very early of spring of 24, I finished my PhD in organic chemistry. And the years prior, as a graduate student, I'd been teaching organic labs and chemistry to students as I was a graduate student moving on. And then in the fall, I'm teaching as a lecturer for organic chemistry at a local university. And from there, I think growing up, even prior to my chemistry background, I'd worked with people in the healthcare field. And so it was a lot more different interactive teaching, but a lot more, one-on-one and really getting people to grow and to learn. So part of that comes from my father, and, all of that. The other part kind of comes from my own general curiosity about certain subjects. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So many people seem to be intimidated by getting up on a stage or in front of a group. And you both, obviously, I've watched Marty present a number of times now. And if he's nervous, it certainly doesn't show. He just does his thing. And so it sounds like you will be exactly the same way. And this is going to be a lot of fun. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it comes later on in the schedule. I'm second to the last time. So it's for me, I look at it as an opportunity to celebrate, have fun, and get people engaged around it then in that way. And I know Will is very capable of doing that, and we can work off each other's sense of humor.
Yeah, I'm writing my list of jokes as we speak, so we'll try to cut it back. But
You've got all the comedy clubs in Vegas to tap into, so you're set. You're set. So, Marty, something you said, though, I don't know if you said you're going to invite people to send you stuff. Is that an invitation that we can send out here now if anybody listens to this, if they want to send you some information on some of their travel tech?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. I'm trying to think that maybe we're going to do this because we have two folks, and maybe have people submit things via a Google form. And as it comes up, we can call people up to share it. That the link will be in there, so we can then switch the link to whatever, to put up on screen. There's a little bit of a juggling act that goes in. That raises the anxiety. Is it going to work? And that's always great for me. I mean, that the payoff, the risk is high, but the payoff's even higher if it works. And that's sort of how I approach teaching too. Sometimes I come in with a concept and I'm going to test it out. And while I'm doing it, or after I do it, I tell students, this worked out really well. I've never done this before in a classroom. So I will, we can certainly take ideas if folks are going to be there, but I think we're going to do some in the moment, and we're going to have limited time, so we can't do it all afternoon. Yeah. Right. But we will bring some door prizes for those folks that are going to be up on stage, and we're keeping to 5 minutes to kind of share why this is cool. How do you use it? And this might be something you want to look at.
Okay, got it. For some reason, Will, since you're in Vegas, as Marty was describing that, and the whole live, maybe a crash and burn, maybe not, I couldn't help but think of Evel Knievel jumping the fountains. And I probably just really dated myself, but, so that may not be something you're familiar with.
I'm still old enough to know who Evel Knievel is. So
good. Okay.
I'm a millennial, one of the good ones, but I still know those references.
Now you did it. Now I'm going to get emails. If you're one of the good ones,
I raised him with I raised him with a little bit of historic culture, so he knows those kinds of things. But I also raised him with enough panache to be able to challenge stuff, and he will do it. So that's always good when you teach your kids to be able to enjoy life, have fun with it, and challenge it when you feel you need to.
And, I'm going to take that as a segue into just talking about Macstock itself, because, Will, you'll be experiencing it for the first time. I hope we get a lot of first timers there, because everyone I've ever known that went to Macstock wants to come back. I have yet to hear anybody say they had a terrible time or even a bad time. And so I think you're really going to enjoy it. Anybody else out there, folks, if you're listening to this presentation, you've got a good sense of the kind of fun we have along with the presentations. So get to Macstock. Mike Potter has given everyone a discount code, all the speakers, I should say, all the discount code to save $50 off attending. So I don't know, Marty, Will, did Mike give you a different one, or is it still the one, Marty, that you're using for your talk, your single talk?
Yeah, it's PodTalk 50.
Okay, so
is my code.
So the code is PodTalk 50, Marty's podcast network. And so Macstock Conference and Expo, use that code to get $50 off. That'll save you a little bit on a room or a flight or whatever it is. My code's MacVoices 50. I don't care whose code you use. Use Marty's and Will's, use mine, use any of the speakers. The point is to get to Crystal Lake and join us for Macstock, because we're just going to have a ball. And Marty, I just referenced the PodTalk. If you want to talk just a little bit about all the other shows that are there, and I don't know, Will, I'm kind of assuming that the one you're doing with your dad is your only podcast, but you never know.
Oh, maybe I've inspired him. Who knows? The other shows that I'm involved in that come out of the PodTalk network are Circular Firing Squad, which is a conversation of academics and friends asking life questions of each other. And that gets kind of funny and challenging and enjoyable podcast to do. I'm also doing the Old Mac Gang, which are people 65 years and plus talking about tech, and primarily Mac tech. There is a podcast that I do called The Tech Savvy Professor with another faculty member, and we talk about technology that can be used in the academic setting. And I do Gear Up and Go, which is, I don't think this is the first time we've mentioned the title of the podcast. It's also going to be the title, I think, of our presentation, but Gear Up and Go podcast with Will and I forget the fifth one.
Did you say Vision Profiles?
Oh, Vision Profiles.
Yeah.
Of course. Vision Profiles is the fifth one. That's every week on Mondays with Eric Bolden, and we focus on Vision Pro headset and other VR and AR. And my son, I can see, is laughing at me right now.
Nothing wrong with that.
So that's all it can all be found on thepodtalk.net.
Great. Will, are there any social media presences or anything you'd like to promote for people to connect with you before the event or after?
The PodTalk is really the main one. I use that's on social media. I'm not. I'm completely removed from social media for probably good and bad reasons. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, look, that just means they have to come to Macstock and connect with you in person. So that works out well. Marty, Marty, I'll see you in Crystal Lake. Will, I will see you there too for the first time. I'm really looking forward to meeting you and seeing this amazing presentation. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us, Chuck.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the Road to Macstock. Again, Marty's code is PodTalk 50. Mine is MacVoices 50. I don't care whose you use. You can't stack them. Sorry about that, but you can't stack them. So just one. But join us in Crystal Lake. We're going to have a ball. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.